Hello, this is Keith here, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this second CD of my book, What Really Matters. Chapter 3, The Inner Worlds. We've now taken a brief look at some of the things that I'm amazed about, and also a look at our method of operation in receiving, distributing, utilising and expressing the electromagnetic energies that are coursing through our chakras. We've looked at the way that these energies can be wasted on selfish acts and conflicting emotions through our lower centres, or can be diverted as we progress on the path of life to the higher centres above the diaphragm, thereby enhancing our growth on this evolutionary journey. This has taken us briefly into the inner world of energies and forces. When you think about it clearly, you'll come to the conclusion that we are not really physical beings expressing ourselves in a physical world. We are primarily emotional and mental beings, expressing and experiencing our consciousness in the world of feeling and thought. The physical world is really just the theatre of operation. Our consciousness is really polarised in the inner world of thought and feeling. So if you really want to change the outer world of events and conditions of your life, you have to realise that the primary source not only of the events of our life, but of our experience of those events and conditions, is consciousness. Spiritual growth comes through expanding your understanding about this inner world of consciousness. So let's see if we can develop a bit of understanding together about this inner world of thoughts, feelings, decisions, choices, attitudes and beliefs. We need to explore this inner world of energies and forces before we can explore ways of bringing about changes to the nature of these all-important raw materials, thereby changing the events and conditions of our life. It's a tough job because I want to keep this book as simple as possible to keep it in line with its introductory nature. A lot of the concepts that I talk about in this book will be familiar territory to some, but will be new territory to others in terms of conceptual understanding. Now, there are 7 planes of consciousness in our space-time rule set that represent our field of play. Each of these 7 planes are divided into 7 subplanes. To help you get a handle on that, let's look at the 7 subplanes of our physical plane. The lowest subplane is dense physical: rocks, soil, skin, bone, trees, bodies, etc. The 6th subplane is liquid, so you can detect that it is of a finer vibrational frequency. Gaseous is the next, or 5th subplane, and that is more subtle again. All these 3, however, can be perceived with our 5 senses. They can be touched, tasted, and smelt. The next level is the 4th subplane, and that is more subtle again, so much so it cannot be perceived with the 5 senses. It can be perceived as vitality and energy coursing through our body. Each subplane is more refined or subtle than the one below it. It's also important, however, to appreciate that all energies from gaseous upward are not really here, there, up, down, higher or lower. but interpenetrating all the lower levels of energy. For example, as an analogy, you know that a tree is made up of physical material, but it is also interpenetrated by liquid in the form of sap. It's a commonly known scientific fact that our physical human body is over 90% water. Gases interpenetrate all liquids. Water, for example, is simply oxygen and hydrogen. I know this is fairly tedious stuff here, but I want to help you to realize that in order for you to grow spiritually, it's important to understand more and more about the inner worlds of energies and forces in order for you to become more proficient in functioning within these inner dimensions. This will be done through the science of meditation, which we'll touch on in later chapters. There's so much that I want to convey to you about time, space, matter, and motion, because it's all useful information to help you become more of who you really are. In this book, however, I just want to touch on the bare essentials of things that I've learned about God's mysterious but very complex plan for humanity. If I can just reveal enough in this introductory type of book to light a spark inside of you that will grow into a burning desire to expand your understanding further through my online intensives, then this book will have served its purpose. It's proving to be more of a task in determining what not to reveal than it is to determine what to reveal. You are a spark of consciousness, and inside of you is an incredible amount of power that remains as yet untapped. The physical world and the inner world that is the inner cause of that world is very different than what appears on the surface. The inner world is an untapped reservoir of incredible power. Some idea of the energies and forces that are there to be accessed and utilized can be gleaned by realizing the enormous power that is released from the unlocking of a simple hydrogen atom in a hydrogen bomb. So please bear with me, and I'll gradually lead you into deeper and deeper understanding about the amazing powers that you have inside of yourself. The keys to unlocking this power are hidden inside of you, but they can only be discovered and utilized by delving into the inner world of energies and forces. It's also important to understand that the three worlds of the personality, etheric, emotional, and lower mental, are filled with elemental lives that are impelled toward expression as an event in your life by a downward flow of energy from the planets, the sun, and the earth. This energy is filled with urgent purpose and expressive of the will of the divine. These lives are called elemental lives. We are the creators of these elemental lives. Every time we have a thought, we take an undifferentiated point of mental energy and we differentiate it by ensouling it with our will or purpose. Its task is then to surround itself with the energy of desire, your desire, from the emotional plane, then gather vitality from the etheric level. From there, it has the goal of expressing itself as an event in time and space to allow it to become an electron. So these thought forms are vying for our attention to impregnate it with desire in order to be expressed as an event in time and space, as an electron. What happens to it after this is quite complex and not vital to the message to be conveyed within the parameters of this book. All these more detailed and complex scenarios are covered in more depth in the 24 CDs of my online intensives. It's important, however, to understand the connection between these thought forms that originate from the lower mental plane and the events and conditions of your life. Each of these thought forms have a signature vibrational frequency depending upon the original impulse or desire of yours that propelled them into life. That signature impulse, which is a resonant causation, is attracted by mutual purpose toward other thought forms of a similar nature. That is where the 7 centers, or chakras, come in. The basic center is to do with physical action and has subsidiary centers in the hands and feet. All thoughts and feelings that are to do with your sense of security are attracted to this center. Injuries to the hands or feet speak to you about your feelings of insecurity. All thoughts and feelings that relate to pleasure coalesce around and find expression through your sacral center. Sex, food, reading, entertainment, etc. Subsidiary centers are the ankles and wrists. Injuries here reflect your inability to enjoy pleasure. All matters that relate to emotional control of self and others find expression via the solar plexus center. Subsidiary centers are calves and forearms. Injuries there reflect your lack of emotional control. These are the centers below the diaphragm. The centers above the diaphragm are the heart center, attracting all thoughts of love, from survival love to selfless, divine love. Correspondence with the elbows and knees. The throat center is all forms of physical, emotional, and mental expression with correspondence to the throat. The brow center is for all intuitive and psychic expression with a correspondence to the pituitary gland. The head center is for all spiritual expression with a connection to the pineal gland and the optic nerve. It is referred to sometimes as the third eye. Now you may say to yourself, how can this knowledge be of use to me in finding greater happiness and success in my life? Well, the name of my book is What Really Matters. What a knowledge of the centers and the function of thought forms created by you as they express themselves as events in your life through your centers does for you is that it brings your attention to the inner world of thoughts and feelings. As we progress in later chapters, you'll learn about the part that your subconscious mind plays in the creation of your reality. Your goal in life is to learn how to create your reality, the events and conditions of your life, in accordance and compliance with your conscious will as opposed to your subconscious will. By becoming aware of the origin and function of thought forms and the fact that they are life forces and energies seeking to carry out the will and purpose of their creation, you are in a position to enhance your power to consciously create the events of your life. You are in the process of creating the events and conditions of your life all the time. The object of the exercise here is not to learn how to create your reality. You've been doing that all your life. It's just that you've been creating those events in the main part subconsciously through attitudes and beliefs that are ingrained into the subconscious mind. Events and conditions in your life only occur by you consciously creating or by subconsciously allowing. If you don't consciously choose the events of your life out of the myriad of possible events that can happen every moment of your life, then by default you allow them to happen by subconscious choice. That means the events will occur according to hidden subconscious agendas of struggle, hardship, crisis, limitation, self-pity, self-punishment, and self-sabotage. The ultimate purpose of this book and your ultimate goal in this life or a future life is to change the focus of your consciousness from the outer world of events and effects into the more real inner world of origins and causes. This is where your seat of power lies, to take your power back that you have given away through abnegating responsibility and conscious choice from those subconscious parts of yourself that seek to destroy you. Yes, the fact that you are reading this book means that you are ready to take your next step forward on the path of evolution. Somehow, perhaps in the midst of crisis, you have called out to something or someone higher than yourself, some aspect of yourself that you don't quite understand, to lift you out of the mire of crisis and pain. In so doing, you have set in motion a series of events that you can't even begin to understand, and more importantly, don't need to understand. That deeper part of you has put in train a series of synchronicities or coincidences that have led you to my book. Now you are in the process of turning your attention and your focus away from the outer world of effects to the more real inner world of causes. You are in the process of discovering that you are much more powerful than you ever dreamed was possible. You have inside of you an as yet untapped source of power. That power is gradually going to be discovered, tapped into, and utilized to help you discover what really matters in your life. You are in the process, through this book, of discovering some of the mysteries of God's creation. You are beginning to discover that you are a unique creation, like a snowflake or an orchid. You're in the process of discovering that God has placed a piece of Himself inside of you. That means that you have all of the properties, all of the qualities, and all of the powers of God inside of you. You are in the process of discovering a new you, a powerful you, a beautiful you. You are about to throw off the shackles and the limitations that have bound you to a life of struggle, hardship, and crisis. You are about to create a life that reflects more truly your goodness, truth, and beauty. You have begun a journey here that is going to unfold your power, strength, and talent. The journey of discovery begins here in the inner, more real world of thought and feeling. By learning about your centers, which are whirling vortices of force, you are learning that they are the gateways of expression that allow you to express your choices as events and conditions in your life. By learning that each time you think or feel, you create an elemental life that is a thought form. Once created, they cannot be destroyed. They can be transformed, however, from a negative, self-destructive energy of fear and shame to a positive energy that supports, inspires, and uplifts you, into an energy of courage, strength, gratitude, enthusiasm, devotion, idealism, hope, love, and joy. Yes, you have begun a journey here that is going to be the start of a journey of discovery that goes on for the remainder of this life and beyond. You have begun a journey that will help you discover the wonder and beauty of what really matters.